Y'all probably will remember this game from when I covered it for Lurk It less than a month ago now, I think? Because I had gotten early access to the early access. But yeah, now it's properly released into early access, and it has changed a bit already. So I figure may as well take a look at it before we get into what we're actually doing today. Both as a respect thing for them trusting me with early access to this, and just because I liked the game. May as well just, you know, give it a spin again and see how things have changed. I do have intentions still of trying to find people to play this in the future. That's the whole thing. Important thing to note, there is going to be less pre-roll ads on this stream and more mid-roll. I'm going to experiment with that, even though I hate the concept. I'm going to give it a spin and see how it plays, because I've seen too much evidence at this point that the mid-rolls actually are better for people at this point, so I'm kind of backtracking my own thoughts on that a little bit, and I'm at least going to give it a chance. Specifically, the first ad is going to happen here in a second, because I figure right here at the beginning gets it out of the way. You're not going to miss anything important. Basically, while they're away in ad land, I'm just going to get things started up and set up anyway. And this way, everybody that comes in afterwards doesn't have to deal with any of the pre-roll shit for the next hour. As much as I do not like the idea, the only way I could get rid of the pre-rolls entirely is by accepting the 3 minutes per hour option. I could have had it running for less more often, but I figure just 3 minutes every hour, I'll just do bookkeeping for 3 minutes. When the hour comes up, nobody will miss anything, everybody will be happy. This also gives me more menu time without anybody losing anything, because I invariably get stuck in my head staring at menus at some point anyway. I may as well make it useful. Yeah, as you can see, these menus have changed around a little bit. These 3 characters are all available now. You just have to unlock them, as opposed to being coming soon. Skins are available. All of these are still available. It kept my progression from the early version. Looks like they've filled out this list a bit further. I'm not going to go through all of this really, because it's the same thing we just talked about. It's the skins and the other characters and some more spells and elements. I have not played other than when I was showing you all the game before. Aside from, I think I may have done like one run off camera at most. And we're not going to be playing for too long today, because I do want to give a good amount of time to Lunar Nights, but since this came out today, I wanted to show everybody it one more time, because this game's worth people's attention. Or at least I like to think so. Not everybody will agree, but that's their choices to make. I do not need my squad to be filled up. I do not want random players. But it is nice that that is an option. Well, I don't know if fill up squad will give you bots or players. I would assume players, because I didn't see any mention of bots existing in this game. Okay, I did lose access to that. Which, that's an interesting thing, by the way, with how the quests seem to have been adjusted. I lost access to the ice area, but I kept access to the area that I unlocked by playing the ice area. It's just a bit of a silly thing. But we'll begin at the beginning, and I don't know how long I'll play for, probably like an hour or so, depends on how long each of the runs goes. And then we'll move on to the main event for the day. Without further ado, onwards. I know the ad break isn't over yet, but they're not going to miss anything in the first half a minute of gameplay, really, so. It'll be fine. It does look a little cleaner, a little smoother as well. I think there was a little bit of a touch-up that happened. So that may also be the hardware change. Not that this is a demanding game in any respect. Yeah, let's take a luck increase. I don't know what all they changed other than what I saw in the menus between the early version and the actual early access release that we're playing now. Gonna kind of just be figuring that out as we go. Damage. But yeah, everybody should be back from the opening ad now, considering I don't see that on my manager anymore. I feel like I've been slightly lied to looking at what it's saying for where the ads will be on the ad manager, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. At least it's not broken like I've seen happen for other people where it's playing ads like every 5 minutes, despite what they told it to. So I'll just take what I can get right now and hope for the best. Speaking of hoping for the best, I guess it's Necro World time. Gotta remember this game doesn't have a dash, so dumpy little wizard gotta stay out of trouble. But I figure opening with something like this is probably a good idea anyway, and I was considering actually making a small, like, half an hour to an hour segment at the start of all of these be just like playing a game like this just as a warm-up time where everybody filters in and we do stuff. As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, I can't do the whole just chatting thing. I just can't do it. So the closest equivalent I could do is playing something relatively mindless while we do our opening talk. So, and I had this discussion about this ages ago at this point. I'm only just now finally deciding to start pulling the trigger on that concept alongside the ads and everything, because I figure I may as well rip the band-aid off and get a bunch of the changes to how I'm doing things out of the way altogether. It's not a good idea as far as comfort goes necessarily, because it's not a gradual change. But there's a benefit potentially to just ripping the band-aid off and getting it over with. I think they changed the explosion effect for those guys. I think it's a little more apparent that they're about to explode now instead of just the red circle filling up. You know, as if the red circle filling up doesn't clue you in that something's about to happen. But I assume people probably didn't notice that, so they got feedback on that one. There we go. Golden bug hunted down. Yes, I would like additional whirl. Yes, double whirl. The scaling might be a little faster too, because I don't remember seeing shooters quite this quick. Oh good, I've already managed to disconnect from my own chat. Joyous day. I think Twitch is having a day. Well, we'll find out. Yeah, I'll take the focused cooldown reduction because our sword time's okay. I'm not aiming for double sword right now necessarily, even though I do really enjoy double sword. I'm actually kind of leaning a little bit more into the whirl now that we have double whirl. So I feel like that might actually be effective. But yeah, there's not really like any notable news other than what I was just talking about with ads and potentially running an opening game more often to talk about today. Like, obviously there's going to be days where there's going to be a lot more to talk about probably. I mean, I may as well let y'all in on a fun thing that's coming up. Thursday's stream is going to be a bit different. I'm going to be kind of late starting because I managed to wrangle a Gunfire Reborn collab with some people. And I'm kind of just like leaning to their time on that one. And there is going to most likely be a new collab tomorrow as well. Because there's a couple games I had picked up that we kept meaning to do something with, and it's finally actually going to happen. So that's cool. What is this thing that's chasing me? This is new. This is a new creature, and I do not like the fact that it exists. It appears to be healing my enemies, and I hate that for it. But yeah, so we got a kind of stacked week this week, is basically the short version. Like, I think today might be the only day that I'll have time to work on things like Lunar Nights and all of that, which is the other reason why I'm doing this and Lunar Nights today. Because I kind of found out about both of those collabs yesterday. Because people brought up the idea, and I'm like, you know, these days work for me. Do these work for you? Yes? Okay, we're going for it then. This is happening. Which is a fun fact, how most of my collabs get arranged. It's usually, is this going to work? Yes? Okay, then we're making it happen. We're not going to question it any further. We're just going for it. Just going for it and getting it over with. Because the more we think about these things, the more often it is that they end up not ending up panning out. So, best to just pull the trigger and call it a day. And the only reason that there's a chance that there may be another solo day is I'm not sure what we're doing on Friday yet. Whether Xeno is going to be up for doing something or available, etc. Saturday should still be business as usual. And I already mentioned that Thursday was the Gunfire Day, right? Yeah. So basically, my day off is bracketed by collabs this time. Which is fine, because that gives me time to decompress after a collab and then go into the next one, so that's fine. It might get a little interesting over the course of the second half of this week, with it being collabs on collabs on collabs. But most of them are ones I'm used to by now, so they really shouldn't be much of a thing. Because if tomorrow's thing works out, it's basically gonna just be me and Moth again, so... Y'all are used to Moth, I'm used to Moth, it'll be fine. Thursday is gonna be the interesting one, because it's two people I've not played with before. I'm not gonna say names right now, considering things are still a little up in the air. Anything could end up going wrong before then, and the players involved would change. I will give you all a hint on one of the two, which is the one I had originally asked. And that is somebody I've raided a bunch relatively recently. So you can kind of put the pieces together there and figure that one out. Especially if you've paid attention after the raids happened. Just another fun little puzzle for y'all to figure out. What is this? Oh. Oh, relics exist now. Okay. Armor's increased by your level, which is pretty cool. 15% more experience when below 150 health. That's kind of neat risk reward. And you get health back every time you dodge. Also kind of neat. Only really good if you got an evasion build, though. I'm thinking, even though it's the most boring option, I think I'm taking the armor. Just because it's the only one I know will work for me out of those options. So we just gained 14 armor. Yeah, it's basically them and somebody I've not even spoken to is the Gunfire collab. Like, I've heard them speak because I've seen them elsewhere, but I've not, like, directly spoken to them thus far. And that's one life down, because I'm out of practice. But it's fine. Got stuck on the wall. Gotta go! Magic missiles, hex bombs, or astral orbs. Well, astral orbs is just, like, shoot at them. Same with this. Hex bombs were just dropped behind us, though. I think I'll take the magic missiles. They might be useful for clearing things like those healers. At least I'm assuming those are healers, since the enemies were healing when they were around. Might be that there's other things that heal the enemies that I'm not understanding. Though considering the golden glow from them has coincided with the heal, it kind of makes sense. I have made a terrible decision. I should not have run that way. But I was kind of doing a desperation move to try to seal the rift in time, which is not happening. I should have just accepted that that wasn't gonna happen. But yeah, it should be an interesting week, all things considered. Oh no, objective failed. What a shame. Part of me is gonna try to line up when I'm switching over to Lunar Nights with when the next ad break happens. Wait a minute. Twitch, what the hell are you doing? I'm realizing, because I keep peeking at my ad manager periodically, because, you know, we're experimenting with it. I want to keep an eye on it so it doesn't do any fuckery. It's moved where that ad's gonna be multiple times. Like, it keeps bringing it closer instead of further away. Or in this case, staying at the hour mark where it's supposed to be. There's fuckery afoot. I now understand why people are consistently surprised when their ads are running, because they don't do what they agreed to do. So that's great. Everybody loves that, right? That's the best thing. Is for those that don't know, when you set your ads management to manual, it's supposed to run, in my case, every hour after start time. It will then run the ad. It has instead decided 45 minutes is where the ads are going to run now. Wait, no, I understand what it's doing now. The timeline on it's just not what I think it is. Never mind, everything's fine. They just have the timeline on it arranged in a strange way. Because for those that don't know, it's got a bunch of like 15-minute markers on it. What they did is it's kind of like an egg timer more than what I thought it was. It's showing how far away it is in addition to the timer, not where the marker is in the stream time. That's what's fucking with me with that. Okay, never mind. This is okay. This is the kind of lack of trust I have for some of their systems here, that my first assumption was that it was doing something wrong. And I know that this is going to be less useful content for those that will be watching the YouTube VOD later, and I acknowledge that. If you want the context for some of these things, you gotta be here. Also, this sacrifice I think is not gonna work out unless I sacrifice myself right now. I think this build is not panning out to the best it could. Because the sword is not strong enough because I didn't keep up with it, and Necrowhirl is a little inconsistent. Yeah, admittedly, it should have been obvious to me that that's how that was working, but I haven't used an egg timer in forever. For one thing, and for two, I just didn't put two and two together looking at that. Because I thought this was just like a entire timeline of the stream down here in the lower part of the manager. I mean, this would be double the armor we have right now. And at the rate I'm getting kicked around, it might not be a bad idea to have more armor. Because there are many times where we just kind of have to accept our fate and take a hit in this game. Which, let me tell you, I'm probably going to roll a lot more armor when I go to play the multiplayer, because this game has friendly fire. So you might be able to guess why I would be getting more armor. Based on that statement. I feel like that just makes sense at that point. Because I'm gonna need something to save myself from my friends, because they are, as ever, more dangerous to me than any enemy I could ever have. And that may sound bad, but you gotta consider both the fact that I'm friends with content creators, which thus makes it, they come at you with intent, but it's intent to be funny. Which usually will lead to fuckery of variety of kinds instead of just what these things are doing, which is purely the intent to just kill me. Like, there's a difference there. And it is absolutely not that I don't trust the people I play with. I absolutely would trust them. I trust them to try to fuck around. Yeah, it's one of those, you can trust people implicitly, but trust them to be who they are, which may not necessarily always be the best thing for a specific purpose. It's a funny thing at times. Okay, infusing Necro with ice was a really good idea. It seems. Because with it lasting as long as it does, it's really causing some fun bottlenecking. Go ahead and keep making it bigger. I should really get our sword upgraded enough that it gets infusion. Especially since we need to unlock the other elements anyway. I really wish we could get the augment that allows us to heal in our Necro Whirls, so I stop having to dodge my own attacks. But I seem to recall that I lamented the same thing when we played previously. We did Solar Pulse with these two before. Let's do Rocky Road. Since I'm always running away from things, it seems like a good choice. Open the box. Give me the... No, give me the thing before I die. Okay. Yes, the less health I have, the faster I run. Yes, please. Because I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I'm sure in certain lobbies it's gonna turn into people killing each other for those relics. Not even a question. It's like, you know, what would happen if you're about to grab that relic and I just explode you? I mean, it is a legendary upgrade. I am so shocked I'm alive, and it's purely because of the increased move speed at lower health, I think, is we suddenly just started booking it. Oh, the crabs are here. Oh, the crab. It is time for crab, and I do not want it to be. There's a potion, but it's guarded. Yeah. That's gonna be the one downside to your move speed being tied to your health. Because of that upgrade, is the second I grab a potion, we slow down. So maneuvers like that get really differently dicey than they used to be. But I'm kind of here for it. It's a neat idea. It's a different dynamic as far as that goes. But I do hope people are going to accept the fact that there's mid-roll ads without getting too upset. Like, I've seen numerous situations where people get really uppity about ads, and then plenty of situations as well where people are like, yeah, it's a fact of life, we get it. And I'm hoping for more of the latter. Because as I've discussed on numerous occasions, I don't want them to exist in the first place. But these are just facts of the business. So that's just where we're at right now. Double my armor again, because I keep walking into stupidity. Because for those that may not necessarily understand the intent behind the change to how ads are going to be run, the idea is so that less people are turned away at the gate, because people are very frequently put off by pre-roll ads as far as new viewership goes. Because, I'll be honest, I've done it myself too, where you show up and you have to wait through like a minute of ads before you can even get a feel for what you're getting into. That will turn a lot of people away. And I've understood that from the word go, but I've been resisting the idea of having the random ads playing, because you never know when people are gonna miss an important piece of context or an important piece of information because an ad suddenly plays. Which is why I'm being so careful about them running specifically when I want them to, is I will then make sure I'm mindful of when that time is and avoid telling people something important or doing something important at that juncture where possible. It starts to make the flow of some things become a little more artificial, and I still don't like that. Because I'd rather it just be the natural flow of I just sit here and do the thing. But we're just not gonna have that option at this point, basically. Without compromising access for people. And I don't know if this is even gonna pan out in a beneficial way to begin with. If I decide that it's not doing meaningful results, I'm going to just put it back to how we had it. But that's what these tests are for. You have to test it in your own space to really know if something is worthwhile or not. I'm happy I have enough armor to just walk through my own stones without taking damage. I could probably walk through a Necro Whirl and be fine now with the amount of armor we have. I think, is there a way to look at our stats? There is. Yeah, we got 88 armor at this point, which I think is more than we've ever had when I played this game. Because usually armor is not a priority. But it's an experimental day. We're just toying with things that I don't do normally. And seeing what sticks. Because you gotta change things up eventually. That's just nature of progression, is you have to change things from time to time. Now, I will say the ads manager is going to be an issue for collabs, because I'm not going to be able as freely to have control over it as I will at times, like when we're just hanging out here between us. So don't be surprised if things do get interrupted by ads during collabs. That's just going to be the way that is. Because I'm not going to always be able to drop what I'm doing and hit the snooze button. Especially, like, take the Lethal Company lobby we had on Saturday, for example. We were almost always doing something. Whether it was productive or not, we were always doing something. I'm really not gonna get the elemental upgrade for our sword, am I? I'm gonna take that 300 health, though, because we might need it to get through this guy. I am happy to see that we're actually making it to the end of this run without having played in a while. Whether we actually get the kill on Sulfus is another thing, but I'm just happy to at least be here. And that goes in all context, really. I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, there we go. We did get the elemental upgrade for the sword. We already have ice on the other thing. We'll take lightning. There we go. Perform 2 elemental infusions in 1 run, so now we have acid available. And I think we only had fire and ice before. I think lightning's what we unlocked by getting the one in this run. And it's looking like lightning will be useful. It's looking like it chains to things that are really close together, as you'd expect lightning to do in games like this. So it gives our sword a bit more reach. I'm trying to get those experience orbs out of the pile because they're going too slow. Though that's admittedly mostly due to my own Necro Whirl slowing them down, I think. And them getting jammed up on Big McLarge Crab. Where did Sulfus go again? He's having a real hard time. There he is. He's over there. He's having a real hard time keeping up, so I keep losing track of where he is. I feel like they made him slower. Because I thought I had trouble keeping ahead of him before. But it may be that he's just getting stuck on the changed terrain, because there is definitely more terrain here than there was before. I remember there mostly just being a flat plain. Oh, there's not that many relics, I guess. We have too much health for 150 health to be a good idea to try to make use of, so guess I'll take evasion mend, even though I think we have like a negligible dodge chance at the moment. Hopefully they'll add more relics as the game progresses, be it through unlocking them or through the overall development of the game. Definitely need a sword damage upgrade because the sword is not holding up. Yeah, another damage upgrade for Necro Whirl is fine, since that's the only thing that's really clocking damage most of the time. There we go. Legendary spell size upgrade, and we can... infuse this ice spell with ice. What a concept. Though cold fire is also very funny. I don't know what either of these does, necessarily. I assume this combines the slow with the damage over time of fire. So let's double down on ice and see what actually happens from that. It seems like it doubled down on the slow, because he's, like, not moving when he's in it right now. Which is great, because we can actually get in with the sword a little bit. Though he still has entirely too many friends clustered around him for us to do a lot. Ooh, that was a mistake to try to walk past him. I wanted to see how much damage he would do with the armor we had. Turns out, a lot. Turns out it was still quite a lot. Oh, this will make a difference right here. Nom 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 nom. Yes, yes. Can I get double elemental infusion for the sword? Because if we could get double infusion on the sword, we might actually be able to dive in and start making a difference. The more magic missile damage will definitely help us make a difference as well. Yes, yes. I feel like they made the targeting on Necro Whirl smarter too, because it seems to... You know, I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said shit about its targeting. Because the second I did, it went, oh, you want me to be stupid again? Okay, boss, and we're dead, but I think we still have the 1 life left. Yeah, this is our last life, though. And with how the crowding is getting, we might actually be hooped. I might have toyed around a little too long. So now that we've separated Soulfist from the crowd, we might actually be able to make some real headway. His Soulfist is honestly not that dangerous. As you can see by the fact we're just kind of dancing just out of their tentacles. And just dodging the pillars they're dropping. And just rinsing their health bar. It's kind of a sad final fight for this area. But it's also the first area. The other final fights might be more dangerous. Because I don't think we ever survived to see them when we were playing before. I genuinely don't remember. I want that potion, but I'm not gonna get it. Gotta go! The party's shown up, it's time to boogie. While we might be the life of the party here, we still need to, you know, keep that life. Couldn't get that bomber out of there. The fact that I froze myself is kind of bad. That could have consequences. Ow, kind of like that. Those are in fact the consequences of my own actions. Thankfully I know where some potions still are that we didn't pick up. So we can turn this back around. Or try to, anyway. Yeah, I figure this is a good way to warm back up to talking. Fire and lightning make plasma, or lightning and ice make white lightning. I like the idea of plasma. Plasma sounds just really cool. Yeah, plasma sword. Ah, I see. Okay, so basically the chain lightning off of the lightning transfers the fire dot to things is the mechanical way by which this works. In addition to just being a different damage type, probably. I like the fact you can combine the elements in this. That's fun. That wasn't really too big a thing in the early version because you just generally didn't have much to work with on that score. At least not in any of the things I tried to do. So that might have also been on me at that point. Where's the big squid man? There's a crab. I still don't see he who lurks with 1,000 tentacles. Oh god. I might be fucked. I might have fucked it up. I might have fucked it up. Ah! Okay. Everything's fine. Good news, we found him. Bad news, we nearly died because I walked into my own ice again. We need to start cutting through the crowd a bit. Oh, God. Well, Yep. Oh. Have we been getting lives back? They must have added a method by which you get lives back, because we definitely ran out of lives a while ago. Oh, yeah, there's a timer. Has there always been a timer and I forgot? There might have always been a timer and I forgot. So I think usually when I died repeatedly, so we didn't get to take advantage of that idea. We're so close. Come on, I either need the Necro Whirls to stay on him or I need to be able to get there. There we go. We did it. We've done the thing. Yep, now we have acid, as well as lightning. We have access to the ice area again. Severe version of the first area. There we go. And you might be wondering why we didn't end up unlocking the other characters. They are... Interesting how the meter's not full, even though it says it's completed. But yeah, they're all level-based for the most part. This one is equip a new spell 86 times, and the other two are just level a lot. Which, since we didn't have those quests before, no progress was made on them yet. So that's how that works. Let's do something a little risky and go to the new area as well, which will probably get us killed reasonably quickly, which will work out for my timing intentions. We will throw moons in the fire zone. The Pyrostone Pit was added, I think, for the early access version. It's hard to talk about the early copy I had and the early access version of the game without it sounding like I'm saying the same thing. But I also feel weird calling it a press copy as well, because I don't feel like I'm part of the press, even though technically all streamers arguably are. Especially those that cover games ahead of time and things like that. It's a weird position to be in, and it's kind of confusing to talk about at times. Like, in part, it's just a terminology thing that gets a little confusing at times, but it's also just generally like, how do I talk about this in a way that makes sense to people that aren't in the business? And even those in the business don't understand and necessarily guaranteed either, because not everybody is in the vein of looking for early access to games and doing like showcase coverage and such. So there's a lot of variables there. So it always gets a little weird. I've not had any conversations like that get confusing or weird yet, but I could definitely see how they would be. It's mostly just a thing in my head of like, okay, what terminology do I use to actually make this make any sense to people? Doesn't look like there's any new spells necessarily. We've had both of those already, so I guess I'll take the blades, even though I don't care for them because they involve you walking towards the thing you're throwing them at. We did establish before that they are quite good when used correctly. Just, you know, using them correctly is the risky part. I suppose if I go out of my way to try to use only things I haven't used before, I'm going to end up using all of the awkward directional things that I don't want to this time. Out of an interest in showing all of the spells that are in the game for those that missed the previous showcasing. There we go. That's the thing that this is good for, is hunting down on targets like that. Ooh. Lingering Moonrang would be really good if you landed on top of a big target. Phantom Blade behind me and in front of me gives it so much more coverage. I wish there was a both option, but I'm going to take the Phantom Blades because it will be more globally useful. Because now I can walk away and actually still have Phantom Blades do something. So it'll be really good when the screen starts getting really full of enemies, because we're gonna hit at both ends. So that works itself out pretty nicely. Oh, and I may as well talk about this, even though who knows when this will happen or how this will happen or any of that. I did see somebody asking for people to play a bunch of arcade games with them on Blue Sky today, and I've started a discussion with them about how, when, what for that. So there very well might be a collab of that variety coming up soon, TM. As in, who God knows when that will actually happen. Because we have not talked specifics in terms of time or anything yet. But this is a concept that will happen. And I have disconnected from my chat again. So that's great. We've reconnected already at this point, but 2 disconnects like that within the first hour is concerning. You explode, then I walk through your friend's bullets and pick up your remains. Base critical damage would be great if I had any critical rate to speak of. What is the base rate for that? Do I even know? No, that's not on the list. Oh, that's a shame. It might be not on the list because I don't even have any. Because I noticed that critical damage wasn't listed there either. So maybe only things that are modified show up there. Also, I kind of love that these tornadoes exist here. Because they're just kind of a to whom it may concern hazard that just kind of travels through and causes things to get messy. And it's very... it's got the potential to make very funny things happen. And I have to also, yet again, on the same vein as that, point out my appreciation for the fact that the hazards of the stages affect the enemies too. Like the fact that they're getting hurt by the lava. I always appreciate when stage hazards are fair that way. They don't just like phase through the enemies and only hurt you. There we go. All according to my cunning scheme. Keep making our Moonrang better. If I could get like lightning Moonrang going, I think it will become devastating. Especially if I can complete another objective and get the option of getting the lingering Moonrang going, because what we'll do is we'll toss it into a crowd, watch it float there and spit chain lightning, and it'll do great things. I mean, it'll be awful things for my enemies, but, well, we're not really worried about how they feel about such things, are we? They are, after all, trying to eat me. And I can't help but not have an appreciation for that as a concept. What do we got? Complete the sacrifice. Okay. Gotta get back down into the corner over here. Ow. The tornado does do a lot of damage, which is upsetting. But again, it's fair because it does the damage to them too. And it kind of needs to do a lot of damage or it would be kind of meaningless that it exists. Oh, we're in trouble. Oh, good. Max health extension, thank you. Clutch life extension. Testing my theory. Critical chance. Yep, it's only when it's modified does it show up in that list. So I think base we had 10? Or did I just not see it before? Because we only increased it by 9. So since it's 19, that means you have to have a base rate of 10. I'm very heavily questioning my own perception of things today. Hey there, Snork, how's it going? Good to hear. This is an unfortunate situation, because I'm not gonna be able to finish the sacrifice. Ow. Oh, maybe we can. But it's gonna be iffy. What do we got? Oh, no lightning. I'll take fire then. This way we at least can throw a dot through them. I might still be able to get plasma on it like we had on our sword in the last run, so it'll work out. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just one of those things where I look at something and question whether I just missed seeing it or if it wasn't there when I looked the first time. There's always that little question mark of like, well, maybe I just missed it because I looked quickly. Well, I mean, Moonrang dealing critical damage at its furthest point is still good, just not what I was hoping for. I'm aware of the game Dustborn, but not in any significant capacity. I'm aware of it because I have seen the name and I have seen a page for it, but I did not pay that much attention to it. And I know that's an answer I end up giving a lot, but that's because I'm aware of a lot of things. And there's too many things to try to keep track of all of them when they don't catch my attention. And that one did not particularly catch my attention when I looked at it. Okay. I mean, there's almost invariably a better version of something out there somewhere. Just because of the simple nature of the universe being nothing is unique, nothing has not been done. It just becomes a matter of how far you're willing to dig to find that better version. And how offensive the bad version is to make it worth looking for. and I know it's a negative thing to say that nothing is unique. Thaumaturge is a good game, as far as I heard. Yeah. I have it on my wish list, I just never spent the money on it, is, you know, things be expensive. But it looked very interesting. That's a good sign. Is you are similar to me in terms of being difficult to impress most of the time. So I will take that as a pretty hefty positive in its favor. And no, Thaumaturge is one of the ones that I only looked at the store page and I was already interested enough to wishlist it, so that should say a lot in its favor as well. So that was mostly I would say the art direction and some of the ideas involved are what got my attention on that one. Not so much the game as a whole, because the game as a whole I think probably isn't going to be super interesting. Unless you invest yourself in what it's trying to tell. That is to say, mechanically, I don't anticipate it being a super interesting game. But from a world and a storytelling end, it seemed like it would be a very good game. And again, this is all that tornado turned at just the worst time. But yeah, this is all pure conjecture off of the store page, so meter your thoughts in response to that accordingly. Because I haven't even watched gameplay on it, because I don't think I've seen anybody I know put out gameplay on that game, which is a shame. Actually, I correct myself. I saw one first taste video come out for it from somebody I know that covers even more niche indie games than I do. Yeah, that's exactly what I saw when I looked at it, which is why I didn't immediately pick it up. Because as much as I really like the idea of Disco Elysium, it's exactly the kind of thing that would not necessarily be able to hold me particularly well. I got the last mushroom right after the timer. Because unfortunately, I have to be in a very specific mindset for a game like that to hold my attention. And having actual turn-based combat is a double-edged sword. Because there's going to come a point where that turn-based combat ceases having any interesting merit to it. Because it will either be a slog because it takes too long to get through, or it will become such a just, oh, go through the motions, push this button a few times, the fight's over type deal, that it just no longer holds any interest for me. And I know that it's harsh to simplify things down to that point, but that's exactly what happens almost every time with anything with that type of combat. And this is why I say it would be very dependent on the story it's telling. Oh, really? It has been an hour already. Incoming ad break. We will continue this conversation after the ad break's over. Because I don't want anybody to end up missing important pieces of context on that one. And it's not going to be a long break anyway. It's literally just 3 minutes. If people can't wait 3 minutes to hear the further part of a conversation, they probably weren't that interested in the conversation anyway. Or, you know, if you really can't wait 3 minutes, how about you hit that subscribe button? I say, knowing full well that the only people that can hear me right now are the ones who have already subscribed anyway. Because I'll give you a hint, that was a joke. Because I don't really care about pushing sub numbers and such. As much as it would technically be a useful thing to do, I don't care that much. So I feel like that makes it too much about the money rather than just being here to have fun. Which, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, yes, this is for business. But I would rather it be a business I enjoy than a business for business's sake, if that makes sense. Yeah, everybody will be back from ads. We're on ads here in a minute anyway, and then I'll tell you about something else I know about that's in the same vein as Disco Elysium that you might be interested in, that you might not be aware that exists. Though it does heavily depend on whether it's a subgenre involved with it that you would at all be interested in. But we'll get into that here in a minute. I'm just teasing that thought out while it's in my head, so hopefully somebody will remind me that that thought existed once the ad break ends. Oh, finishing sealing that rift is gonna have to wait till we walk out of here and come back in again. There we go, everybody's back from ads now, or at least should be, I think. Or is that the start of the ads? Saying ad in progress even though it said the ad break started already. So I'm not sure whether there's ads or not right now. I'm not saying that it would be too easy at the start. What I was getting at with that, Snork, is usually the longer end of things, not even the first half of the game. Like, usually the second half, either everything is difficult, so it just takes forever to get to the thing you're trying to do, because the combat takes a while, because, you know, turn-based combat inherently takes time. Okay, either it double ad braked, or I misread what it was telling me. And I can't tell which, if I'm honest. I wouldn't be surprised if it pulled a double ad break, because these things break sometimes. That is unfortunately also entirely possible. Actually, yeah, Moonrang aiming for the enemy with most health makes sense. But yeah, the game in question, actually, since I know for a fact an ad's running right now, let me check what that game's called right quick. Yeah, Game Tech. That's the one. I'll type it in here because it's not quite spelled how you'd think. That. It's another detective game. Why? You can do it the way people normally do it. Don't be doing that. Where was my thought process? Oh yeah. Basically, it's a very narrative-heavy detective game set in a much more technologically advanced world, involving a lot of, not necessarily a lot of game-based crimes and things, but a lot of like virtual crime and things of that nature. Very interesting, goes into some very dark places very quickly. So be advised on that one for anybody that looks at that game. Which, you know, with the comparison to Disco Elysium, I feel like people would figure out that it goes dark places quickly. Considering what Disco Elysium does as well. We'll take acid knives, that should be interesting. Go ahead and snag that. Yeah, I ended up getting Game Deck, I think, through Humble Bundle at some point, and it was also given away on Epic for free at some point, so I technically have 2 copies of it. But I played it for a few hours, and I was actually genuinely pulled into that one a little bit. I only stopped playing it because I got distracted and then couldn't re-engage, as frequently happens. But yeah, worth taking a look at in that same kind of vein. And it's a game I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about, so I figured I'd toss that one out for you. You know, doing that thing I do best where I pull a random thing out of the ether and go, here, probably no one knows this exists, but here, look at this. This is a thing. And as usual, I didn't look for it in any way. It just landed in my lap, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll tell people about this now. Because that's the funny thing about what I do and all the weird things I show off. Very, very rarely do I actively go looking for these things. I just happen to find them. Or they find me. It's a very weird life to live. But in many ways, I wouldn't trade the weirdness magnetism I have for anything. Aside from maybe money magnetism, I wouldn't necessarily say no to that. If that were money magnetism in a way that wouldn't get me arrested. But I feel like most people would be down for an idea like that to begin with. Okay, yeah. It seems like you're already familiar with dark places then. Let me tell you, at least one of the quests I did in Game Deck genuinely had me debating a moral question for more than a few minutes, which is a rarity for me in video games. Because it actually had brought up a question I hadn't really thought about. So I had to actually sit there and chew on that thought for a bit. I don't remember the specifics anymore, nor do I fully remember the question at hand, or I would bring it up. Because this was months ago at this point. But the fact that I still remember the fact that I had to stop and think about that is meaningful enough. Because very rarely do I actually have to take the time to think about decisions in games. Usually I pause in order to vocalize the thought process rather than needing to think it through. Because no matter how much a game tries to make a moral dilemma seem complicated, there's usually a very cut and dry answer to it. Okay, even in this area, it's just Solfus again. Hopefully they add more bosses as early access goes along, but this did just release in early access today, so one boss is fine. There we go, max upgraded Moonrang. There we go, Plasma Moonrangs. Exactly what I wanted. I mean, I would have rathered a different combination with lightning, like maybe acid and lightning or cold and lightning for like an AoE slow type deal, but once we had fire, the main thing I wanted was plasma. And of course, you know, anything relating to like moral questions and things like that are going to be inherently quite subjective. Is everybody's strengths and weaknesses with regards to how they feel about questions like that are always going to be based on an individual's experiences and what really hits them. Like, it's always gonna be variable in that regard. But the one thing I remember positively about the writing is that it doesn't pull its punches. It doesn't try to, like, water down what something is necessarily. It's just like, here's the thing, here's what's happening. Some things are only implied because it makes sense in the context, but they don't, like, sugarcoat things to save people's sensibilities. And I have a respect for when that's done without going too far to the other side and being offensively blunt about it. Is there such a thing as smacking people upside the head with information too? And that can be important for some things, but it can also be done poorly. Like, there are definitely some games where I felt like I was getting hit upside the head with their narrative instead of being immersed in it. And I don't know about anybody else, but I really don't care for that way of approaching things. About the only way that really can be pulled off in a positive way is if it's intended as, like, a satire of that type of thing, and even then that's very tenuous ground to be walking on. That can very easily just turn into garbage. There we go. That turned out way better than I expected that to. But 2 runs in and a little over an hour into the stream, we will be transitioning over to our main game.